Hello everyone, I wish you good health today. Here are the main topics in today's video. At the Belarus border hotspot, Alexander Lukashenko urgently established the 37th Airborne Brigade, which is only 40 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. A stern warning from Kyiv and the international legal clamp tightening to corner the leader of Minsk. A shocking explosion in the heart of Moscow. The secret birthday party of General Alexander Chekhov at the Sancho Bulavosi restaurant suddenly turned into a disaster because of a steel-plated explosive device. How the officials' flimsy explanations quickly fell apart. The nightmare of the Zhymo blackout. More than 100 power grid nodes were cut off, oil refineries engulfed in flames, gas stations closed, and mobile signals were shut down. How the peninsula, once considered an unsinkable aircraft carrier, is now turning into a logistical burden. AI superweapons from Ukraine have shocked the world, turning all Shahed drones into scrap. The International Air Show was shaken when Ukraine unveiled the P-1 Sunset Killer interceptor, capable of 370 kilometers an hour and integrated with artificial intelligence, reshaping the entire rules of global drone warfare. Belarus is preparing for war, with the 37th Airborne Brigade moving close to Ukraine and the red alert being activated in Minsk. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander Lukashenko has openly escalated tensions to a peak by deploying troops right next to Ukraine's artillery positions. In the context of the Kremlin being stuck in a war of attrition, Minsk has hurriedly deployed strategic mobile forces toward the northern border. The plan orchestrated by Moscow seems to have been set in motion as Belarus is urgently establishing an entirely new airborne assault brigade. According to a statement from Alexander Ilyukovich, a representative of the Belarusian Special Operations Forces, the 37th Independent Airborne Assault Brigade, a unit that has been under development since February 2026, has officially entered its core implementation phase. One battalion has completed the recruitment of officers and enlisted soldiers, while the 2nd Battalion, along with artillery, air defense, and tactical reconnaissance units, are being rushed to completion this year. It is expected that by 2027 this strike force will be based in Gomel, just 40 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Even more concerning, this is not an isolated act. The Belarusian leader already possesses 3 formidable airborne assault brigades: the 103rd Brigade in Vitebsk, the 38th Brigade in Brest, and the 5th Brigade in Marina Horka. Now, this new strike force will turn the entire northern border into a powder keg ready to explode. In response to these relentless provocative moves, Kyiv did not stand by idly, but instead launched some very decisive countermeasures. President Volodymyr Zelensky issued a stern warning when he discovered that Belarus was urgently completing a large-scale military infrastructure system along the border. From strategic corridors such as Kovan, Ivanov, Lodinets, Sani, Doki, Korostin to Chechnya, a series of ammunition and fuel depots, as well as supply routes, are being rapidly constructed. The Ukrainian leader pointed out that these constructions serve no civilian purpose whatsoever, but are purely designed for the war machine, and this is even clearly noted. In Russian operational documents under the so-called Special Military Operation, the message from Kyiv is extremely clear and cannot be ignored. The ball is now in Lukashenko's court, and if there are no real de-escalation steps instead of preparations for war, Minsk will have to face unpredictable consequences. Reality seems to be cornering the Belarusian leader, as he is not only facing military pressure, but is also caught in the tightening grip of international legal pressure. The Belarusian opposition, represented by the Belarusian Democratic Forum led by George Bankinets, has taken an unprecedented step by sending a formal petition to President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Office of the President of Ukraine immediately forwarded the request to the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine to consider the possibility of initiating a criminal case against Alexander Lukashenko. Bankinets emphasized that this prosecution would maximize legal and personal security risks, delivering a strong psychological blow to Lukashenko, who is entangled in accusations of aiding Russia's war and forcibly relocating Ukrainian children. Although Lukashenko insists he will not send troops directly to the battlefield, the harsh reality shows that Belarus remains a military outpost, a key stronghold for the Kremlin, hosting military bases, training grounds, drones, and even Moscow's strategic nuclear weapons. The shocking explosion in the heart of Moscow comes as the spiral tightens, with the front lines no longer limited to border areas, but now blazing right at the center of the opponent's power. In a breaking news update delivered by anchor Victoria Arabelicia, the Ukrainian military has launched a large-scale manhunt targeting Russia's military elite. A shocking explosion struck directly at a secret meeting of Russian generals right in the heart of Moscow, plunging the Kremlin into chaos and confusion. The fact that strategic targets went up in flames right in what was considered the safest rear area proves that the authorities have lost control of the situation, opening up a new, dramatic, and brutal front in this historic confrontation. The front line is no longer confined to the symbolic border areas, but has now spread deep into Russia's strategic rear through Kyiv's long-range attrition operations. Waves of drone attacks continuously tear through the air defense shield, delivering devastating blows to essential energy and logistics infrastructure. In Samaja province, a sea of fire erupted after a drone struck a large warehouse of the Whiteberries e-commerce corporation in Novosemikino village, marking the 9th time this company's facility has been bombed since mid-July, a fact confirmed by both the business and Governor Vyacheslav Fedorov. Meanwhile, the old Saratov oil refinery owned by Zotnev Corporation was also engulfed in smoke and flames after the 15th attack on the facility. Nearby, the Engel Strategic Air Base, home to a fleet of heavy bombers specializing in raids on Ukrainian cities, was shaken by a series of explosions. The consequences were so extensive that the Russian Civil Aviation Authority had to order a full or partial shutdown of 8 airports along the Volga River and Domodedovo International Airport near Moscow. But the most psychologically shocking blow to the Kremlin elite took place right in the heart of power Moscow. A strategically targeted explosion collapsed the terrace area of the Sanchao restaurant in Bulgogi, where Russian military commanders were attending the 55th birthday party of General Alexander Chekhov. At first, the media and Moscow officials tried to mislead the public with a scenario blaming a gas leak, but this explanation quickly fell apart when it was revealed that the building was not connected to any residential gas system. Russia later admitted that an improvised explosive device, equal to 1 kilogram of TNT and packed with hundreds of deadly steel ball bearings, had exploded. The gift exploded at the exact moment the security guards at the checkpoint opened the gift box brought by a woman, coinciding with the time the convoy with priority signals had just entered the restaurant. The bombing killed at least 5 people on the spot and left 6 others in critical condition. A series of police cars, FSB secret agents, Zosberia National Guards, and fire trucks immediately cordoned off the entire park and surrounding streets, leaving the public in shock. Now, it is not invading armies, but rather precise long-range strikes that are reshaping the course of the war. The blackout nightmare continues, but at the same time, the encirclement strategy is pushing the Crimean Peninsula into an unprecedented logistical and energy nightmare. Without the need for direct amphibious assaults, Ukraine's war of attrition strategy is gradually cutting Crimea off from its supply lines to mainland Russia. Under the command of Ukraine's unmanned forces commander Robert Brobdy, the operation called Crimea Blackout has knocked out more than 100 substations and key power grid junctions since early July. As a result, the power and water systems have continuously collapsed, causing even Russian military bloggers who support the war to warn people to prepare for the worst winter since the peninsula was annexed. Fuel prices have soared to record levels, while retail fuel sales have been completely frozen for more than a month. Major gas station chains like TS and Aton have stopped selling fuel through cards or gift vouchers to both individuals and businesses, following the tightening decree of the head of the annexed administration, Sergei Aksyonov, only keeping a limited supply for ambulances and emergency services. All requests for refunds on prepaid vouchers have been rejected under rigid legal justifications. The government's deadlock in resolving the crisis and its decision to concentrate all remaining resources on protecting southern coastal tourist cities like Sevastopol, Yalta, or Feodosia is causing widespread anxiety, signaling that a breaking point is approaching very soon. Once considered an unsinkable aircraft carrier and an absolutely safe rear base for Russia's offensive campaigns in southern Ukraine, the Crimean Peninsula is now undergoing a brutal strategic reversal. Under the pressure of a series of long-range strikes that the commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces, Robert Brobdy, likened to firepower sanctions, Crimea's energy infrastructure is collapsing in a domino effect. Even Yalta, the southern tourist gem that was thought to be given top protection, is now sliding into a serious disaster. The city has no power, mobile networks are down, and Wi-Fi is now a luxury. The local government apparatus has almost ceased to function, Resorts had to rely on generators for help. But even these machines kept breaking down because they had to run on low-quality gasoline that Russian authorities have been using for the past month to cope with the fuel crisis. Yalta remained in darkness for 3 straight days and nights. Shops and cafes became crowded public phone charging points, where people had to spend more than 2 hours just to fully charge a device that normally only took an hour. In the peninsula's north, electricity was available for just a few minutes daily, a tactic that local people suspect is a trick by the authorities to avoid having to pay compensation for prolonged power outages as required by law. As a result, many local farms and businesses went bankrupt, and stores were forced to stop selling fresh food because their refrigeration systems were completely useless. In stark contrast to the rosy picture of optimism painted by the mainstream media, the harsh reality has pushed people's lives back, turning them back to a primitive era. After more than 10 days of living without electricity and in intense heat, people had to resort to various ways to save themselves, storing and processing canned meat from the thawed freezers. The promises of Vladimir Putin about a bright and modern future have vanished into thin air, replaced by a vision of regression to the Stone Age. To prevent Ukrainian drone attacks, radio and mobile internet systems have been widely jammed, making emergency communications like calling an ambulance or fire truck impossible. As a stopgap, the occupying authorities have had to reinstall classic public payphones in urban areas, but these are limited to emergency service numbers only. Communication between the residents of Crimea and their relatives has now become a thing of the past, as they have to send handwritten letters through fixed-route bus drivers, whose trips are also unreliable due to fuel shortages. All those chain reactions have dealt a final blow to the peninsula's key economic sector. The Crimean tourism season was already clinically dead before it even began. Contrary to the initial bustling preparations, resorts and vacation spots have fallen into a state of desolation, with owners reluctantly admitting to a bitterly failed business season due to the impact of the conflict. This is the result of a strategic plan to fully deprive the Russian military on the peninsula of fuel, ammunition, and equipment. Crimea, once a proud launching pad for attacks, has now turned into a massive logistical burden, a land that is exhausted and isolated. This dramatic reversal not only exposes strategic gaps in the Kremlin's defense system, but also makes the whole world stand up and applaud the creative and bold long-range operational thinking of Ukraine. AI superweapons from Ukraine. In the fierce arms race, as Russia puts its full effort into mass-producing various types of killer drones to dominate the skies, Ukraine has unexpectedly unleashed a weapon capable of turning these deadly machines into countless pieces of scrap. At the Farnborough International Air Show in the United Kingdom, the admiration of experts and the long lines of international delegations waiting to access Ukrainian technology proved that Ukraine had made a revolutionary technological breakthrough. The main highlight attracting attention is the compact interceptor drone called P-1 Sunset Killer, developed by the Ukrainian company Scafo. This machine is specifically designed to chase and destroy the jet-powered UAV site models, which Russia has been increasingly deploying in nighttime attacks. With a maximum speed of up to 370 km per hour and operational range of 30 kilometers, a ceiling of 9,000 meters, and carrying a 500-gram explosive payload for 15 minutes of operation, the P-1 Sunset Killer is equipped with AI and a variety of cameras for both day and night observation. This allows it to automatically detect, track, and ram into enemy targets in the final stage of its flight path. However, along with the interceptor drone, Scafo has also introduced a tactical bombing and transport UAV that is changing the way warfare is conducted on the battlefield. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has officially gone down in history as humanity's first full-scale drone war, where unmanned devices take on roles from reconnaissance, interception, and rear attacks to serving as the backbone of logistics. The application of automation technology not only increases combat effectiveness, but more importantly, protects the precious lives of soldiers on the front lines by transferring dangerous and life-critical supply missions to robots. Ukrainian defense companies are creating a rapid innovation program, with new designs constantly being tested, upgraded, and immediately deployed to the front lines. Even though modern equipment today can fly autonomously, process data, and track targets after launch, the human factor still plays the most crucial role in planning strategies and identifying targets. As global defense budgets have surpassed $2 trillion USD and continue to rise, the demand for battle-tested weapons like those from Ukraine is booming, where the only barrier is the production capacity of the factories. Countries are not only racing to replenish their ammunition stockpiles or expand their military forces, but also eager to build strong, independent defense capabilities, both for self-defense and to enter export markets. Breakthrough technological achievements that have been tested in the storms of the Ukrainian battlefield, as reported by journalist Yaroslava Marusenko on the Vinyo News program of Telemazatan United News, are becoming highly sought after in the global military market. This is clear evidence that the technological landscape is reshaping the global security order and the aspiration for a peaceful sky in the future. So, in your opinion, under increasing military pressure and the risk of international criminal prosecution, is Alexander Lukashenko preparing for the upcoming war?